Alrighty, I've simply got too much anticipation. Let's begin. We're going to hop right into it. Today, we're going to be talking about reporting, of course. That's why we're here. We're going to talk about how to drive and demonstrate maintenance success using the reporting module in MaintainX. My name is Mary. I'm a customer success manager here at MaintainX. I probably already work with a lot of you, so it's nice to see you folks. And if I don't yet work with you, I hope we get the pleasure of doing so in the future. Here's our agenda for today. A lot to get through. First, we'll go through just a little introduction. I know for some people, this may be your first experience of MaintainX, so we'll go through some basic information, and then we'll dive into reporting. We're going to talk about why we should use the reporting module. We're going to talk about some common goals and key performance indicators. We're going to talk about how to compile and how to utilize the data that the system will put together for you. And then we'll talk about how to get started, so how to take our steps towards our goal. To kick us off, a little bit about MaintainX. Our mission is to transform the way frontline professionals manage the equipment and the facilities that power our world. We are building for the long term, pushing innovation in mobile workflows, real-time analytics, and open APIs. And we partner with our customers. We have a world-class team here that develops and supports our product with industry expertise in manufacturing, facilities, and more. You may recognize a few names on here. They may be suppliers or partners of yours or just a company you know. They trust MaintainX for their operations. But something I always like to draw attention to is that MaintainX works across a variety of industries, across a variety of geographies, and a variety of different company sizes as well, from big multinational corporations all the way down to mom and pop shops. If you have something to maintain, MaintainX has something for you. So you're in good hands here with our wonderful team. And if that didn't resonate quite enough, here's my bragging slide. Here's a few awards we received from G2's Spring 2024 report, so G2 being a software review company. As you can see, pretty good results on here. We're pretty happy with the fastest growing CMMS, highest rated CMMS across multiple platforms. So if you're already using us, you know that. If you're new to MaintainX, welcome. All right. That's enough of my spiel. We've got a lot of me talking in the next hour. So for now, I'm going to hand it across to you folks. First question I have for you today, and be honest, there is no wrong answer. How frequently do you currently access the MaintainX reporting module? I'm going to pop that poll up. There we go. So you have some options here. You have daily, you have weekly, you have monthly, less frequently than monthly, and I'm still evaluating MaintainX. You can go ahead and pop your answers in there. I'll give you a second. I'll let that build. All right. Fun. How are we doing on responses there, Cass? Should we share that? Ooh, I can't see those results, and I'm not quite sure why. There we go. I've got them now. So 25% of folks are accessing MaintainX as reporting section daily. That's pretty good going. 20% weekly, 15% monthly, 12% less frequently, and a whole third pretty much still evaluating MaintainX. Wow. So I'm guessing from those still in there, we're accessing it quite a lot. There's only a few people accessing it less frequently, but some people it's going to be a first viewing. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go all the way through from some really basic concepts right the way up to how we can advance maybe some things that you're already using within reporting. I'm feeling greedy today though, so I was thinking another question for you. How well equipped do you feel to utilize MaintainX to demonstrate the success of your maintenance operations? Now, we know a lot of you are accessing reporting, but how well equipped do you feel to utilize it? So how well do you feel that you can show the good work that your team is doing? You feel very well equipped all the way through to completely out of my depth. Again, no wrong answers here. Just pop them in the poll. Fun fact while you're doing that, reporting is one of the main things I work with my customers on. It's often a place that people think they could improve on and that we know we get a lot of value. So if you're new to MaintainX, I'm sure we'll have a chat about reporting before too long. Alrighty, let's pop those results up. I'm excited. Ooh, this is good. We're going to get some results here today, folks. So only 8% feel very well equipped, 36% somewhat well equipped, and between neutral and somewhat unequipped, we've got about half of the folks in there, but only 8% on completely out of my depth. That's good. We've got quite a nice bell curve there. That's what we'd normally expect to see. So for wherever you are right now, hopefully by the end of this webinar, we can bump ourselves up at least one category. I'm not expecting us to go from having no knowledge to having all the knowledge within 1 hour, but maybe we can slightly advance our capacity to use this module within the next hour. So let's start out. Why should we use reporting? I think before we introduce any feature within MaintainX, it's important to know the why. If we're going to dedicate time towards anything, we want to know what our return on that time is going to be. So, establishing key performance indicators and tracking our progress against them allows us to, firstly, make data-driven decisions. A lot of time when I speak to my customers, we're making decisions based on hunches, typically. And there's nothing wrong with, some anecdotal evidence. There's nothing wrong with kind of knowing how your organization works. But, when we're making big decisions regarding personnel, regarding finances, regarding equipment, things that may impact safety, even based on hunches, that can lead us into some dangerous territory there. So we want to make sure that every decision we make is backed by evidence, is backed by data. Second point, we want to demonstrate successes and opportunities. So successes, we want to show, especially our executive team, how well our maintenance team is doing. Something I hear constantly from my customers is that maybe our executive team is a little bit removed from maintenance operations as a whole. How do we show what we're doing every day? How do we show the hours and the effect that our team is putting in? Through using reporting. And of course, opportunities. How do we identify what our team could be improving on or what processes could be changed? Again, through reporting. Third point in here, we want to drive performance. So this is really within our team. We want to identify where there are areas for improvement, where we could increase our efficiency, where we could coach people, where we could identify our stellar performers, really just make sure our whole team is doing the best work that they possibly can be. In simple terms, we want to increase efficiency and we want to decrease costs. That's always what it comes down to at the end of the day. Using a system like MaintainX, utilizing that reporting module is going to make our team more efficient, it's going to make our assets hopefully more efficient, and it's going to decrease those costs, maybe by decreasing unnecessary labor hours, maybe by decreasing the overconsumption of parts, maybe by decreasing the downtimes that we have, lost production revenue. This is really the North Star here. This is what we're working for. This is where we see a return on our investment being both into a system and into our team and into our capital as well. I'm speaking a big game here. I know that. You might be thinking, Mary, that sounds incredible, but it's really easy for you to say on a webinar. So how are we going to do this? How can we actually turn our data into action? How can we solve problems based on the results of our reports? Well, firstly, we're going to define our goals. We need to know what our goals are. A lot of the time I see maintenance teams kind of pushing for overall improvement, but we don't know the specifics of our goals. When we're pushing in 15 directions at once, it's easy to lose focus and to not get the results that we're looking for. When we focus in on specific goals, we can really track our progress and make some progress happen. So I like to use SMART goals in here. We want our goals to be specific. We want them to be measurable. We, of course, want them to be attainable and realistic, and we want them to be time-bound. Saying, I want to increase my revenue as a whole, not a great goal. If we have a number attached to that, if we have a time frame attached to that, and if it's reasonable, that's going to give us much more drive. Second point in here, we want to define our results while guarding against various biases. So we want to be objective as much as possible. Thirdly, we want to identify what's working well and where there's room for that opportunity. So we want to demonstrate our success, right? We want to show our team is amazing in this capacity, or this particular asset type is running really, really well. And we also want to see where maybe some gaps are, where maybe we're not performing as well as we could be, or where our equipment is struggling. That's where we're going to be able to then invest our time and resources and see the most return. Okay. So again, a lot of information there. And I mentioned we don't want to push in many, many different directions at once. We want to have those SMART goals. We want to define them. Really commonly asked question I get is, what are other people doing? You know, we want to make sure we're on track with our peers, with similar companies to ourselves. We want to make sure we have everything covered. So we want to go through some common key performance indicators and goals. And I broke this down into 4 main areas. These are the 4 things I see and my team sees, I did a little poll, most commonly from our customers. First goal, we want to grow from reactive to preventive maintenance. Second goal, we want to increase efficiency and drive performance. Third goal, make data-driven budget decisions. And fourth goal, of course, always, we want to reduce our downtimes. So let's get into these in a little bit more depth and a little bit more detail. Starting with goal 1, growing from reactive to preventive maintenance. Firstly, just a disclaimer, if any of these goals don't resonate with you, you don't have to use them. If they do, take them and run with them. If there are additional goals you want to use, go for it. These are just some suggestions and some ideas of how to drive and demonstrate the success of your maintenance team. So switching from a reactive to a preventive maintenance module, why do we want to do this? Well, firstly, we want to reduce the over or under maintenance of equipment. And secondly, we want to extend our asset lifespan. When we have a maintenance model that is mostly reactive, we're just putting out fires. We're just trying to keep on top of everything. What that means is that our team is taken away from doing the preventive work. It means that when we're focusing in all our time on several problem assets and doing all the reactive work there, we're not keeping up with the regular preventive maintenance that is prescribed and recommended by the OEMs to keep our equipment running and to maximize on that lifespan. We know, of course, that you get 2 of the same asset, they're going to have different lifespans. Things always work that way. But what we want to do is make sure we're maximizing for each individual asset that we have. We want to make sure our team's labor hours aren't caught up in that endless cycle of just putting out fires. And we also want to make sure we're not spending too much on parts, right? If we are constantly putting out fires and having to put in rush orders to our vendors, we're spending more on getting parts in, we're using more parts than necessary. These are all things that we could plan for if we were on a more reactive maintenance schedule. So what's a typical goal here? Well, my customers, on the whole, tend to aim for about an 80% preventive ratio in here. That's 80% preventive to 20% reactive. And there are a couple of different reports that might be helpful when we're measuring our progress and our attainment against this goal. First one is work orders by type, and the second one is the reactive v repeatable graph. So I'm going to head into MaintainX, and let's take a look at them. There we go. So hopefully for most of you, this is a familiar screen. If this is your first time seeing it, this is really the page that we spend the most time in within MaintainX. This is our work order screen. All the information that is captured within a work order here, that our technicians fill out as they're doing their job, transfers on through into the reporting section. The reporting section can be accessed on the left-hand side here by clicking on reporting. If you don't see reporting within your view, most likely you don't have an administrator license. Reporting is only visible to admins within the system. If you're a full user and you feel you should have access to reporting, have a chat with your supervisor or the admin on your account. They can talk to us and we can enable that feature for you. All right, so enough background information. I mentioned 2 reports in here. I mentioned our work orders by type, and I mentioned our non-repeating v repeating. First thing we want to do when we head into reporting is set our time frame up here. So right now I'm looking at last month, but I have a lot of different options here that I could take a look at. I could look at today, yesterday, last year. I can get custom and check specific dates in here between X and Y date, or have it say the last 3 months, for example. So when we've set our time frame in here, we want to look into our data. Work orders by type that I'm looking at right here is showing me the ratio between our preventive and our reactive work order. As you can see right here, I'm on 87.4%, so I'm pretty happy with that. Non-repeating v repeating is showing us the difference between, you guessed it, work orders that repeat and work orders that don't. One common FAQ I get here is, what is the difference between these 2 graphs? What do they each show? Well, when we're in a work order and we're making our work order, just going to edit here, there we go. If I scroll down to look at the recurrence of this work order, I can set what work type it is. The reason there could be a difference between what's repeatable and non-repeatable and what is reactive and preventive is that we could have a one-off work order that is preventive. We're just scheduling it for the future. But typically on the whole, if it's recurring, it's preventive. If it's one-off, it's reactive. But you have some flexibility here. So in our reporting, I'm looking at this month right now. This month, I'm at 28%, not doing so great. Last month, I was at 91%. So what has changed between these 2 months? By flipping between these times, I can really get a grasp of which direction things are headed in. In my organization, could be better, could be better. In yours, hopefully we're on a positive trajectory. If I want to drill into this information and get some more, more granular data here, I can just click on the graph, and I can do this for any graph we see within MaintainX reporting. There we go. Now what I'm able to do is group this information. So perhaps I want to group by asset to see which assets have I got the most reactive work on. Any number you see in here that's blue, we can click on and pull up the relevant work orders here to dig in a bit more again. Maybe I want to group it by location and see if, any of my locations have particularly high levels of reactive work orders and see maybe should we invest some more resources there? Maybe should we work on their PM plan? Same thing, if you're enterprise, you could do the same thing by organization. It's also helpful. All right, so we've taken a look at work orders by type and at non-repeating via repeating. That's where I recommend we go when we're looking to switch from a reactive to a preventive maintenance model. Food for thought. Second goal, increasing efficiency and driving performance across our teams. Pretty self-explanatory here. Why do we want to do this? Well, firstly, we want to ensure nothing slips through the cracks. I often tell my customers, managing a maintenance team, it's like spinning plates, right? We're trying to keep as many of those plates as possible in the air at any one given time, but things slip through the cracks, things fall. We have to make sure we just minimize those falls and minimize the importance of those falls. Secondly, of course, we want to keep to OSHA or relevant, whatever your regulatory body is, we want to keep to their guidelines. A, so that we make sure we're doing things properly and we're safe. B, so that we don't get slammed with a massive fine. Always quite an incentive there. Few helpful reports here. Time to complete, which also factors in mean time to repair. Created versus completed, and on time versus overdue. All of these reports I see as looking at the volume and the efficiency, right? So how many work orders are we putting through, and are we actually getting them done to a reasonable standard in a reasonable time frame? Let's flash back into our reporting screen right here. I'm going to extend this date range a little bit. Let's look at the whole of last year. There we go. So I'm looking at my created versus completed here, and across the course of last year, 99.3% of my work orders were completed. So what this is showing is within this time frame, how many work orders were created and how many were completed. I say to my customers, we are healthy here if we're between 95% and 105%. How does it go over 100%? Well, if you're creating more work orders than you're completing, it's going to go one way. If you're completing more than you're creating, we might go above 100% because again, it's within that given time frame what is created and completed. As long as we're within those boundaries, we're doing a pretty good job. If you see this green and blue line start to differ in any way, that may show we're understaffed or it may show we're assigning too much work. We want to be sure they are following the same trend, whichever direction they are going in. Next report I mentioned, I'm going to scroll down. There we go. Time to complete. It's one of my favorite graphs within MaintainX. Here I can see how long work orders were on hold for, how long they were in progress, how long they were open for, and I can also track my mean time to repair. Hopefully, our mean time to repair is decreasing. And that shows me two things. A, mean time to repair is decreasing. Our team's getting more efficient. We're getting jobs done quicker. And B, we're just getting better at recording things in MaintainX. So if you're newly adopting the system, this is also really handy to just show the organization of the account as a whole. Thirdly, I mentioned on time versus overdue. Let's go to this month for this one. Oof, things it's not going good in Mary's organization over here. A lot of work orders are overdue. Maybe I might want to reassign some of those. Maybe I might want to check my team's bandwidth. And what I can also see is how many of our non-repeating work orders don't have a due date. If this number is high, if this is anywhere above about 10%, we have a little bit of a problem. I know sometimes we might not know when something is due, but put an approximation in, because as soon as something doesn't have a due date, that's just a recipe for that job slipping through the cracks and not getting done, sitting there long term. Again, any of these graphs we look at, we can click into and see those groupings in here to get a bit more granular with the data. Alrighty, so we know how to increase efficiency. We know how to measure our performance in there. Of course, these are giving us indicators. What this is allowing us to do is take stock of where we're at, compare that to where we want to be, and then we individually and as a team can implement practices and procedures that are going to help us get from point A to point B. Goal 3. This is always a fun one. This is something that strikes fear into the heart of many a maintenance manager. Make data-driven budget decisions. Why? Because we want to invest our money where we will see the most return. If we're given a certain budget at the beginning of the year, that's all gone by the end of the year. Good job. But we want to make sure that we got our money's worth from that we are benefiting the company with where we've invested those resources. And of course, as always, we want to decrease our operating expenses, always the name of the game. I have one report here that is really, really helpful, and that is our time and cost report. Going to give you whiplash going between these two screens here. Well, let's head back. Time and cost, we're looking right in the middle here. Time and cost report. Let's flip it to last year. There we go. So you can see over the course of last year, right away, I know my team spent 14,537 hours on maintenance tasks, and we spent $1.6 million. How does the system know this? How does it track it? Good question, Mary. Again, it's within our work order. There is a section called time and cost here. The time and cost report is pulling directly from this. So as our team is filling out the work order, they can add additional parts. Anything they've used in their repairs, they can pop it in here. And what that's going to do is pull us up an itemized list per work order of the expense we have incurred in terms of materials. We can also put our time in. So any labor time that we put on this work order, we can record in the system along with an hourly rate. You can set the hourly rate for your organization or per technician as you prefer. Both of these, we can make required fields. So they have to be filled out before the work order is completed, just to ensure that we're getting, data integrity here. You also have your other costs. That could be something like a vendor cost, a miscellaneous cost, a tax, an environmental fee, whatever it might be, you can pop that in other cost. And like you see, we're building up a total for this work order here. As soon as this work order is marked as done, this information is going to feed through into the time and cost report right here. So as soon as it's marked as done, it appears in here. I want to really focus on the groupings in here. Few things, again, that tend to be useful. Let's start with user. We can see if there's anything anomalous here in terms of the total duration. Is anyone spending way more hours than someone else? And also in terms of the time cost. If we have, specific technicians with specific qualifications, actually cost the company a lot more money to have them doing work by the hour. We want to make sure they're not spending their time on, baseline recurring tasks that are eating up that budget. We want to make sure we're really maximizing on who we're having doing what task. We can always click again, anytime the number is blue, click on it, and you can pull up the work orders that had a time cost associated with them. Asset is my favorite. This, in my mind, is where you get the most value from this report. If we group time and cost by asset, and then we order by total cost, that's going to sum up the time cost, the part cost, and any other costs as well. What we can see in here is if we have any anomalies, if we have any assets that are costing us way too much money to maintain. For example, I'm looking at a wheel loader here. In the last year, that cost me $369,000 to maintain. Now, I am no expert, but that might be an indication that that is where I want to invest my money. That's where I want to focus my CapEx and make sure that I'm replacing this because it is no longer worth the cost of maintaining it. This is what I mean when I say making data-driven budget decisions. We know how much this is costing to maintain. We can really analyze that point where it gets to be just worth replacing. Same thing really with asset type. Do we have any real problem children in here? Yeah, my construction equipment, way too expensive. Let's see what we can do to minimize that. Location as well. Does anything stand out? And again, same thing for organization. And if we have multiple different plants going on, why is it that one of them is costing me 4 times as much as another one? Maybe we might want to workshop some practices there. All right, lots of insights can be gained from this one report. It is my favorite. It is, in my mind, the most powerful one in the summary page so far. So take a look into this and see what we can do. And again, don't forget, if you want to start recording time, we can make that a required field very, very easily for you. You would just head into your settings, into features, into work orders, scroll on down, and you can make it required. And that's going to make sure you have your data integrity there. All right, hope you guys are ready for goal 4, because it's the big one, reducing downtimes. This is a buzzword. How many times do you hear this a day internally? Of course, we want to reduce our downtimes. We want to decrease our production interruptions, and we want to minimize our lost revenue. Now, we recently released, back in November, I believe, a full dashboard purely for this purpose. We did a full webinar on this. I'm going to dive into the basics of it now. If you want to see more information on this point, go on into the MaintainX Academy, bottom left-hand corner, and there's a full webinar on asset health. But for now, we're not looking at summary anymore. We're going into asset health. This is an enterprise feature. So if you're on our enterprise plan, you have access to it. If you're on our premium or essential plans, have a chat with our team, see what we can do to get that enabled with you. We'll put you in touch with your account manager and they will work through it with you. Some things to call attention to in here. Again, I'm looking at the last year. I can see that my asset availability within the last 30 days is 97%, and that's over a 24-hour schedule. So over 24 hours in the last 30 days, 97% asset availability. Currently, 161 of my assets are online. 5 are offline. 3 unplanned downtimes and 2 planned downtimes for scheduled maintenance. Within this top tier here, I can see my most problematic assets. And again, all of these columns can be ordered. So if I want to see what my most downtime is, it's for this Delta robot right here. I can check how many failures they've had. It's actually my generator trailer. It's giving me the most. I can see again what's costing me the most. And I can see my asset availability as a whole. So order that. It's my air compressor. That's giving me the most grief here, shall I say. 60% availability. We might want to look into that. We might want to devote some extra resources to it. We might want to replace it. By default, these are grouped by asset, but we can change that. You might want to group it by asset type. You might want to group it by the specific downtime reason, or again, by the location and organization. Have a feel around in here to feel what's going to be the most relevant for your needs. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. There we go. So now we can see what's the difference between our ratio between unplanned and planned downtimes. Of course, we're always going to have planned downtimes, but hopefully we can minimize that ratio so we have as few unplanned as possible compared to our anticipated planned downtimes. We can also see our goal here. So for me, my planned downtime is supposed to be greater than 80%, and right now it's only 53%. So this Delta robot, again, giving me grief. I really want to look into that. If you want to get into some root cause analysis, I'd recommend taking a look at unplanned downtime reasons in here. So we can see inspection. It's giving me the most reason for my unplanned downtimes. But it could be equipment failure. It could be electrical faults. Operator error is a pretty common one I see in here as well. You can see why your assets are down. We can track our mean time between failures in here and our mean time to repair again. We can set specific goals for that. In my organization, I want my mean time between failures to be greater than 200 hours. I want as long a time span between failures as possible. And I want my mean time to repair to be as small as possible. I want that ideally less than 35 hours. I can also see some trends with my total downtime and my availability over time. Of course, here we're hoping for a decrease on our total downtime and an increase or hovering steady on our asset availability. We surely don't want this one to be decreasing. So this is where we can really get into our asset availability, which is the first component we need for calculating our OEE. I know OEE, again, another big buzzword. We want to make sure we're optimizing on the equipment that we do have. And MaintainX can help you track your availability component. And then, of course, your ERP system or whatever you're using to manage your production can help with your quantity and your quality. With that, you can then monitor really live your OEE score. So there we go. 4 goals. Just to flash back, we had grow from reactive to preventive maintenance, increase efficiency and drive performance, make data-driven budget decisions, and reduce our downtimes. Little fun fact here, new feature that I actually didn't know we had until very recently. We're always releasing new updates. I mentioned that we can set KPIs directly within the system. You saw I had set in my organization that I want my planned downtime to be 80%. I want my mean time between failures to be above 200% and my mean time to repair to be below 35%. Now, those numbers may resonate with you. Those are around the system defaults within the system, but you might have specific KPIs set by your higher-ups or by yourself internally, and you can adjust these within MaintainX. The way you would do that, back across, is by going to settings. I'm going to go to features and I'm going to go to reporting. See right here, we have set asset health goals. You can adjust these as you like. We love new features. All right, a lot of information there. We know which tiles to look at for various goals now. And that's really useful for taking stock of where we're up to. But we really need to compile and to utilize that data, right? It's good to have it, but we need to make sure we can get use of it. That's where we focus on this turning data insights into actual real-world actions. So, to turn our data into action, we must ensure we are receiving the most accurate information. I'm going to stop here. I'm going to focus on this first point. For want of a nicer way of saying this, garbage in, garbage out. If we're getting rubbish data in, we're not going to be reporting correct information. We're not going to be able to show accurately the efficacy of our operations. So we want to make sure we're getting the most accurate information possible. And there's a few different ways that we can do that. I mentioned for time and cost, we can set that as a required field. So we make sure the information has been put in correctly. We can do a similar thing with categories. We can do a similar thing with a lot of components of work orders. So if you're measuring something and you want to make it a required field, we can absolutely do that. If you want to automate a process, we can do that as well. If you want, for example, MaintainX to connect to different sensors on your equipment to note when something goes down and immediately record that in the system so you don't have a delay when you're waiting for a technician or an operator to record a downtime, we can do that as well. We have an open API. You can code something in, or we also have a wonderful integrations team who would be happy to work with you to get something set up. Just reach out to our support team, let us know, and we'll help you configure that. Secondly, we want to filter for relevant data according to our KPIs. So I mentioned before we have the groupings, right? Under each tile, we can group by various groupings. But we can also use filters. The filters in MaintainX are quite powerful. So when I'm looking at my summary page or my asset health summary, or even within a given tile, wherever we might be, I have these filters at the top, which are relevant components of a work order. So for example, I might want to come in here and I might want to filter and only see work orders that are done. There we go. I also might only want to see work orders that are done and that were reactive, and see for reactive work orders, how many are on time, how many are overdue. Not bad. Really within here, if you have a specific insight you're looking to get, use your filters to drill down so that you eliminate all the noise and you're looking only at the data you're looking for. Instead of having to come in here and put these filters on every single time, we can save those filters. So I'm going to save this as done reactive work orders. And I can either have that be a personal view, so only I can see it, or I can make it visible organization-wide. Now, every time I come in reporting, instead of having to assign all those filters again and again, I can just go to my filters in the right-hand side and pull up organization filters. There you go. If you're on our enterprise feature as well, and you have multiple different organizations, you can choose in here which organizations you would like to be visible. When we filtered, when we found those insights that we're looking for, we want to compile that data in order to compare, contrast, and see trends. So it's 3 points there, really. I mentioned that right away we can see where we're up to right now. We also might want to see where we've been, so we can see if we're trending positively or if we're trending negatively. In order to do this, I'd recommend taking use of a custom dashboard. Again, we want to eliminate the noise and only focus in on what really, really matters. So what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to make myself a dashboard. And for myself, I'm really focused on the efficiency of my team. So I'm going to look at created versus completed, and I'm going to look at mean time to repair. Those were a couple of graphs that we mentioned when we were originally looking at driving that efficiency within our team. I'm going to make sure I'm filtered to what I want to look for. So I actually want all work orders in here, but I want to start out by just looking at this month. Each of these tiles will have a plus right next to it, add to dashboard. I'm going to create a new dashboard here. Call it driving efficiency, Mary's KPI. So I now have this for this month, and I actually want to see last month too. So I'm going to add this one onto my dashboard, and I'm going to name this last month. I'm going to do the same thing with mean time to repair. So I'm going to scroll down and take my time to complete one here, pop this in, add it to my dashboard. Last month. Whoop. There we go. And I want to make that comparison again. So I'm going to put this month and add it in. There we go. For good measure, I also want to put in my on-time v overdue just for this month, just so I have kind of a grasp of how that's going. This moth, there we go. And of course, I'm taking these tiles here now, but if I wanted to take the more granular information, take, for example, on-time v overdue, and I wanted to see it by team member, just to really see, who's getting things done on time. Looks like Patrick's doing great. And who's really not getting things done on time. Mary needs a bit of help there. I can add this to my dashboard as well. So what does that look like when we pull it all together? I'm going to head over to custom dashboards right here. I'm going to press publish. This means that other people can see it as well. And I'm going to head into my dashboard. There we go. I have pulled together only the tiles that are relevant to myself. Within here, I can play with my filters. I can even reorder them or rename them. So here, I might want to rename this one, make sure I know that I'm looking at this month. And I think I'm going to reorder them as well, because what I want to see is the last month on the left-hand side and this month on the right-hand side, so I can easily see the changes. Just going to go and reorder. There we go. There we go. So I can see now, seems like it's trending downwards in my organization, the amount we're doing. We have a bit of a peak here, so maybe we might want to keep more consistently. Obviously, we've had a decrease, 24% completed. I would anticipate that's normal because we're within this month itself, but we're towards the end of the month, so maybe it should be higher than this. I need to set my parameters. My time to complete, my mean time to repair, I can see in here. This is not good. Last month, I was at 18.2 hours mean time to repair. This month, I'm at 123 hours. So I really need to get in there, do some work, make sure I'm trending in the right direction for my goals. And I can see my on-time v overdue and by user as well. So I'm really just looking at the information that matters. What I've done here is, again, got rid of the noise, put everything in, made sure I'm only looking at the things that matter to me in my organization. Fourth point in here, we want to share information with the relevant stakeholders. So when we want to share information with relevant stakeholders, what I mean here is we want to communicate with people in our team. Now, that could be our team members who don't have access to reporting, or it could be our higher-ups to show them what we're doing and show them how we are progressing against our goals. So what I'm going to do is within reporting, and I could be, again, looking at my summary page, I could be on asset health, or I could be doing more specific information, say within a custom dashboard. I want to share this, so I'm going to export it. And I have a couple of options here. I can either just export this to a PDF and then send it to who I want to, or I can use our new feature, scheduled export, right here. By using scheduled export, I can name this something. So I'm going to name this driving efficiency. for management. I can choose who I want to send this to, and this could be members within MaintainX, or it could be members outside of MaintainX. I can select my email subject, my email text, whatever you want it to be. I'm just going to call this one test. And I can set my frequency right here. So I'm going to want this to go out weekly on a Tuesday. And there we go. I set this up one time, and then all of the relevant stakeholders are being notified automatically as we go. If you want to take this a step further, if you want to get really custom with your reporting and build upon, what's in the system, maybe compile it with information from other systems or manipulate the data in different ways, 2 ways you can do that. You can export the data within MaintainX. You can do it to a PDF or to a CSV with all of the options from a work order in here. You can then manipulate that in Excel, or you could even put it into, a business intelligence tool like Power BI, and you could fuse that with other information. Some of my customers do this to calculate their OEE, and they'll plug the information from MaintainX regarding asset availability with their information from a system, maybe like SAP, for their production numbers. So it will automatically, on an ongoing basis, give them their OEE number, so they can track if they are trending positively or negatively. A lot we can do there. So where do we start? I think we've talked a lot about the North Star, we've talked a lot about options, but how do we actually put this into practice? How do we begin? Firstly, determine the most effective KPIs for your team. Maybe that's just one KPI, maybe it's 4, maybe it's 5, but choose them, write them down, make sure they're smart, like we were saying. Record where you're at now, record where you want to be. Let yourself know what time frame you want to do that in. Really establish what those goals are. 2, create your filters, create your custom dashboard, set yourself up success. I see custom dashboards as trackers, essentially to see how we're progressing towards that goal. Get that set up right at the beginning. When we set up our custom dashboard, we did last month and this month. That's going to update every month. So you set it up once and you're good to go. We then track our progress, check in on those dashboards on a semi-frequent basis. If things aren't going the direction you want them to, dig into those work orders, look at your team, see what we can improve. And if they're going in the right direction, maximize on that, double down, keep doing what you're doing. And finally, we want to share those insights. So share it with your team for driving continuous improvement. A lot of my customers do it as kind of a performance review. Maybe say once a month, they have something sent out to their team members, how we're doing compared to averages on getting things done on time, on the volume of work we're doing, on our capacity, and they'll review them in their meetings. Send it to finance, quantify the need for investment. Take a look into that time and cost report. It is so handy. Justify your need for additional headcount. Justify your need for additional investment, for more parts, for more equipment, whatever it might be. And of course, to management, demonstrate your success. We're all working really hard. We're doing our best in a time where things are really expensive. Labor is hard to find. Parts are almost impossible to get a hold of. Demonstrate what your team is doing really, really well with data to back it up. So firstly, demonstrate. Secondly, track. Thirdly, continue tracking. Fourthly, share it out. And this will put you on a path towards achieving your goals. A system like MaintainX is designed to help you along in that direction. Whereas we can't be there on the ground with you, giving you an extra hand, giving you some manpower. But what we can do is provide you with a system that will help demonstrate your successes and help grow your team, help improve your efficiency and your efficacy here as well. If this is something that resonates with you, if this is something that you'd like to get more into, and if you'd like an additional helping hand, we have many resources here at MaintainX that I just quickly want to refresh with you. Firstly, you have our support team right here, Contact MaintainX. They are real people, I promise. It's not a robot, and they are real humans, and they're always happy to help 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You also have a ticket portal. Submit a ticket that way. You have your MaintainX Academy, where you can see all different videos. All these webinars are recorded. You've got many helpful kind of training courses on there as well. And MaintainX Community, where you can communicate with other people currently using MaintainX. If you want to speak with someone, you want to speak with your account manager or your customer success manager, email us, phone us, talk to us. We are happy to help. You have your support team, you have your account manager, you have a customer success manager. We're all on board to make your operations a success as far as we can with MaintainX. We're always happy to help, so reach them out and we'll see what we can do. With that in mind, you guys are giving me a busy week this week. We're doing office hours again on Thursday. For those who don't know, we do these bi-weekly. So on May 30th at 10 a.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. GMT, our team of experts, myself and a couple of colleagues, we're going to be ready to answer your questions on, firstly, learning best practices and tips for using MaintainX, accessing new features and product enhancements, and getting the most out of your MaintainX platform. At the end of the day, if you have MaintainX, it's available to you. We want to help you get the most value possible out of that. So look in your inbox, you will have an email already with an invite to office hours if you're an existing customer. You'll have the option there to drop a question in. If you submit a question in advance, I'll take a look through those, and those are the ones I try to get to within the session. We always have a lot of volume. I'm going to try and answer as many as I possibly can. So if you have questions about reporting, about the system, about any module you like, pop them in there. We'll see each other on Thursday, and we'll really get into the nitty-gritty of the system. So don't forget to join us Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. GMT. We'll see you then. But for now, thank you so much for joining this session. I hope it was useful. I hope you're feeling more well-versed within MaintainX's reporting module. Again, you'll be receiving a recording of this webinar via email by June the 5th. If there is a point you want to go through, if one of those goals particularly resonated, you go through that recording, pull it right on up, and go through it slowly. If you have any questions, reach out to us. We're more than happy to help. So on behalf of myself and the team, thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you next time.